At least 9 women, additionally, have come forward now with their own stories of abuse following those recent allegations from actress Evan Rachel Wood against her former fiance, Marilyn Manson. Wood named the shock rocker in an Instagram posting in part, "He started grooming me as a teenager and abused me horrifically for years. I was brainwashed and manipulated for years." Manson, who's, by the way, his real name is Brian Warner, has defended himself online, calling the allegations, quote, "horrible distortions of reality." When celebrities are involved, these stories get a whole lot of attention, but most of these cases are not about famous people. Grooming, sadly, devastatingly, is an everyday part of a cycle of abuse and human trafficking. It crosses racial lines, socioeconomic lines, and gender lines. Joining me now, Michelle Heater. She's Program Director for Victim Assistance Programs at Waymakers in Orange County. Michelle, good to see you again. We felt we needed to talk about this notion of grooming. We've been hearing about it for years. You talk about some of the big cases that sort of gave birth to the Me Too movement. Grooming. Define it from your perspective. What does grooming look like and what does it mean?
Grooming really is building a relationship, and when it gets to the nitty-gritty, it really looks like those friendships that we build and those romantic relationships that we build, and that's really what makes it so dangerous. It starts off with this getting to know each other, getting to know likes and dislikes, and then moving into really understanding what a person wants and needs, and then that's where it can start to open up for the perpetrator these avenues in which they can build trust and connection and show the person that they're trying to get to that they care for them and in ways love them. And then it's through that the manipulation can start. And really in the grooming process, it's small boundary crossings that happen. It seems so subtle, and that's why a lot of people don't realize that it's even happening. And then by the time these bigger boundaries are crossed, by then this person's so deep, they're so enamored, they're so much involved with them, for them in this relationship, that being without it seems unfathomable. So they just are able to then tolerate things that they would never have imagined.
And Michelle, it reminds me a lot of the manipulation that we see in cults, right? Because if you ask somebody that's in a cult, if they're in a cult, they're going to say no. If you ask somebody if they're in a relationship that they've been groomed, they're going to say no because they can't see it happening to themselves. So where, with all of this blurring of lines, where do those that love these people step in? How can we see the signs?
So it's really knowing your person, first and foremost, is knowing them before this is happening, knowing what it is that their values are and what it is that they've been able to tolerate in the past and what they've been able to tolerate, and then later on said, you know what, I'm not doing that again. And when you can address the person that's going through this from a place of love, not a place of fear. You address them from a place of fear, you're going to scare them, you're going to probably push them away.
Okay.
But if you can address them from a center of love, regardless of how they receive your message, if you can stay in that place of love when they realize what's happening, when they're reaching out for help and support, and you can be there for them in that loving, compassionate way, that's really what it's going to be.
Give me an example of the language you would learn. Go ahead, pretend I'm the person that you need to reach out to.
So, Michaela, I want to tell you, you know I love you, and I'm starting to see things that are concerning to me. I don't know if you see them, but I'm hoping that you and I can just have an open conversation, a really honest conversation about what's happening and how it is that you're feeling. I want to know really what it is that you're sensing in your body. Is this feeling okay for you, or is there something that's telling you that it might be a little off? Because I want to be here for you in any way that is supportive for you.
I can see what you're doing there is reaching to their heart center and reaching to their heart and the established relationship you have with them. I imagine it's going to be one of those things that takes time as well. The grooming took time. Helping someone be extracted from it, or even alerting them to the red flag that you're madly waving from the sidelines, is likely going to take time.
Yes, and quite frankly, people, even if they're realizing they need to get out of this relationship, out of this situation, they may not still be ready to address the trauma and all of the things that went with it and what happened to them. And that's okay. We need to follow them on their path of healing. doing, not dictate what we think they need to do in order to, quote unquote, get better. We, as their friends, their loved ones, or support people, are simply there to witness that, hold them in that, and walk alongside them on their path, along their way in their time.
And we're not even addressing the grooming that can happen online with younger children, the human trafficking aspect, because that is something that you all are paying attention to and trying to shine a light on as well, quickly.
Yes, and really that's what's so incredibly important, is that understanding that, yes, this happens to young people, this really happens to anyone and everyone. Everyone can be a victim, because at a human level, we are longing for loving, connection, and belonging. And so regardless of our age, anyone can fall victim to somebody that wants to be predatory and really get into our minds, because once they can control our minds, they can control our bodies.
By the way, you just said something that people are feeling in this pandemic. Am I right, Michelle? I mean, all of us are feeling a desire for connection and are feeling lonely and cut off. So I imagine there's more vulnerability right now than ever before.
There absolutely is, and then the access to that vulnerability is bigger than it has been before because of online access. But yes, absolutely.
Michelle Heater is the program director for victim assistance programs at Waymakers, doing terrific work. We thank you for this conversation and for educating us on an important part of what is happening out there. You know, Rachel Wood started the conversation once again, and so we wanted to take advantage of that. Thank you, Michelle. You stay well.
You too.